I'll show you some stuff in a minute. Not stuff that's coming out my body, but just getting comfortable. Right. So, nope, not right. Maybe I'll move over there. I think I'll move. This is usually my comfortable spot, but I can't get comfortable. Hang on. Maybe I should turn the other way. Nope. Okay, that might work. I was gonna get comfortable and then put the camera on, but I thought that might take a while. Nope. I'm a little uncomfortable today. I had such a good day yesterday and I'm paying for it today, but it's okay. Right, so today I wanted to talk about some of the weird things that your body can do, which are really useful to notice and spot because it's a sign that you're fighting cancer. So it's a good thing. So in my previous videos, I describe how when I use meridian massage, this is my meridian massage tool. It's a squishy thing and I use it on my face to go around the meridians. Just to recap, doing that work moves lymph out of the face. And in moving it out of the face through a one-way system, hi crows, they're back, they saw me. They're flying over my head, they saw me. Yep, not even joking, they know I'm here and they're like, oh, is she gonna jump in the pool again? The pool's really disgusting and I'm not really, I don't really want to, but like, oh, guys. Okay. Well, so when you push the lymph through the face, you speed up the rates at which the immune system can move around and see things and do things instead of just relying on muscle milking, because unlike your blood flow, your immune system circulating in your blood, but it mainly circulates through the lymphatic system where the new soldiers are coming out, and that relies on muscle milking through a one-way valve system. And your face is like the mark of the water in the body. So as you get dehydrated through the night and rehydrated, some effects of inefficiency show up in the face. So when you do the lymphatic massage of your face, it does two things. It moves the immune system around, purges it out of the face, and it backfills. And that backfilling is also flushing out the brain. So it enables stress hormones to be flushed out. It enables your body to produce calming feel-good hormones, which are necessary for fighting any illness. So anyway, I was doing this, and one of my sessions where I was actually baffling the tumor around my stomach area, what happens when you're kind of baffling the tumors, you're like picking the scab of the tumor kind of thing, and the immune system sees it But that picking the scab sends tiny little clumps around the body through the lymphatic system in the blood, and they fly around the body and they land somewhere and they try and bed. And the interesting thing is, I didn't put two and two together at first, but I had this weird pain in my eye orbit, so something was bedding in the eye orbit behind my eye, and something was bedding in the boss of my scalp. And there's a lymphatic flow, which goes from the eye to the scalp, to this boss on the head. The crows are back. They brought their family with them. It was just two crows, but they went away and they came back with a family. They're yapping at me. So anyway, I was doing this, my usual massage thing. I usually do it with the oils, and I felt this comfort on my scalp, on my skull. And this particular region in pathology, osteology, is called the boss. This bump on either side, it's called the boss. And when you have blood disorders, like there's hypoxia in the body through sickle cell anemia or something like that, what to happen is the bone reacts and it grows outwards through the bosses in this needle formation. I did a painting of this 10 years ago because I was fascinated with disease mechanisms, how people with sickle cell anemia will develop extra large bosses because their skulls are trying to produce this extra blood, and it causes the tabular bone, the spongy bone, to grow out like needles and expand the bosses. And I thought, that's weird. I've got a pain there on my scalp, and I've also got the pain in my eye orbit. And I thought, there's something happening with my immune system here. It's coming out of the bone. It's related to the illness that I'm suffering. So I was like, I wasn't panicked about it, I was just aware. And as I go through one of my immune cycles, which lasts about 3 to 5 days, I was doing my head massage, and I felt something like really sharp poke through. I was like, oh my God, what is that? Was like, you know, what was it? It was, the whole bony area here was just lit up with pain. And a needle popped out of my scalp, and I was like, couldn't grab it because it was tiny and it was getting lost under my fingernails. I was trying to grab it. I was like, a needle just grew out of my scalp. An interesting sign of bone activity trying to produce an immune response by, you know, producing it in the tabular bone. So I was like, okay, my body is fighting something. That's a good, not a bad sign. And then a couple days later, this eye orbit also swelled up, and it became very painful one morning as the delicate tear duct in my eyes started to swell up with pus and then come out through the waterline of my eyelid, together with these kind of crystals, like calcium crystals, like needles. It felt like needles were coming out of my eye. I was like, it was really painful. And I was just massaging my eye gently to just get it moving, and then it pushed it out. And that happened a few days ago. And I couldn't collect those samples. My oncologist asked me to collect samples of anything that came out my body, because they're going to get a biopsy of something that is extrinsic to my bowels. So the GI doctor couldn't get it. My colposcopy didn't get it, because even though I have cancer cells leaking out my uterus, the cancer's not in my uterus, so it didn't show up in that biopsy either. So I know that this thing is in me, and they've ruled out a couple of areas, and they've got this hunch now on sarcoma. Hi Charlie. Charlie is Pinworm, and he was with me yesterday, and so Charlie, after you left, I had this great experience of more stuff coming out of my body that I actually managed to capture them. So I got a sample in a little vial that I'm taking to my oncologist so that they can actually do the study on the thing that my body ejected, which was really funny. I was just really proud that I got it, because I've had these instances where things come out of my body and they don't match a pattern that is found with metastatic cancer. So the technical Western term for it is called pseudogout, and pseudogout is a buildup of calcium crystals that can happen for a number of reasons, not just cancer. But with my specific illness, once it's metastasized, I produce a lot of these calcium deposits so what cancer does is it acidifies the body. A part of the metabolic process of cancer is that it ferments glucose and glutamine, and the waste product is succintic acid and lactic acid, and this builds up in your body tissues. So what does the body do to try and neutralize the acid? It pulls calcium out of your bones, and this calcium builds up in lymph nodes around the body, and it turns green crystals, and they can be quite irritating and painful, but your body can push them out like splinters coming out of your body. And I was laughing because on my nose, this little trophy scar here was when one of my tumor clumps that flew around the body after a pummeling session landed on the end of my nose, and I watched it in the mirror in real time. It commanded my body to feed it. It was like, little narcissist, feed me, feed me. And my body's going, okay, and it's building these blood vessels to supply the little tumor so that it could bed. So I watched it, and I was like, I wonder how long I should watch this for before I poke it and interrupt it and start an inflammatory response. So I watched it, and it grew lichen in real time. It got really red, like spider veins growing. And I thought, now I'm gonna stop it, I'm gonna poke it and irritate it, and then my system will see it. Because the nose just happens to be one of the coldest parts of the body, which is not very vascular because there's cartilage under there. So it relies on the lymphatic system, the fluids. So I was just irritating it, and then within 24 hours it turned black. Like, I had this black, the end of my nose just turned black, and it was pretty sore, but I didn't realize the cancer type that I have actually grows calcium crystals. And so 3 days later, the black, it peeled off my nose. And then this rice grain popped out from underneath my nose. I was like digging around going, what is that? Like, have I got a botfly up my nose? It's like, really uncomfortable. So I kind of just dug it out. It was like a rice grain that popped out, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, that's weird. And I just squished it on the side of the jacuzzi, and it was just like a rice grain. It kind of crumbled. It wasn't pus. It wasn't yellow. It was white. I was like, it's weird. Looks like a piece of soft bone, you know? So anyway, that's what my oncologist eyes, and he was like, I need you to collect those for me if you get one anywhere else. So I was like, yeah, sure. I look like a venereal disease down there is going to explode anytime, I'm sure. That was 2 weeks ago, and I've been waiting for these lumps to just like do their thing and push themselves out, but they weren't. They were pusting there because your groin area or the inguinal area is full of lymph nodes. But the thing is, when you've got lymph nodes next to bone, your body, when it swells up, it pushes it out. It pushes out through the skin, and it can be quite irritating. When it's in and around soft tissue and there's no bone to apply tension to when it swells. It just stays in the body. It doesn't want to come out. So anyway, so I've been waiting for this thing to pop and it wasn't popping. And then a few days ago, I think 4 days ago, I had a little incident where I stepped on a bee, and because of my autoimmune disease, any bee sting can cause me anaphylaxis. So anyway, I'll show you it now. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I stepped on a bee. You can't really see, but pretty much healed now. Yeah. Okay, so there was a swelling on my foot that basically swelled up this whole area, and I didn't panic about it. At first I was actually more upset by the fact that it was a bee I rescued from the pool, and I thought, oh, I saved him, he's not gonna die, and I put him down on a flower next to the jacuzzi, and the bee got up and crawled back to the pool, and I went and did a handstand and came down on him, and he got me in the foot, which unfortunately meant of the bee that I just saved. But I thought, hang on a minute, I might have an anaphylactic reaction out of this. So my instinct is normally, if I get stung by a bee, to just squeeze it really hard and stop the venom from progressing further into my bloodstream, in the hope that I can localize it and prevent the anaphylaxis. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to jump straight in the jacuzzi and I'm going to baffle that cytotoxin, the bee venom. I'm going to push it into my blood so that it systemically sees the venom and my entire immune system will fire up. But I did it in faith that I tumors so regularly that my immune system knows what tumor is and it fights it. Wherever it goes in my body, it catches up and kills it. So I have complete faith in my immune system that it can see the cancer, fights it, because there's a cycle that I go through. And so I got in the jacuzzi and I'm like, oh, this hurts. So I got it on the jacuzzi nozzle like this, and it was painful. And within an hour, all the tumors in my body lit up like a Christmas tree. My immune system saw the cytotoxin flying by and went, whoa, we're under attack. We don't know where the source is, so we're just gonna find the nearest thing that's not right and attack it, which happened to be all my tumors. And I'm very aware of where they are in my body. And the same pain that was in my foot from the bee sting was happening inside me. It wasn't an anaphylactic reaction. This was my immune system going full on, attacking the tumors. And I was quite relieved actually, because to get that activity level happening is pretty hard. Normally I focus on one tumor at a time and the immune system activates around the one tumor, and I time it because it makes me pretty exhausted and fatiguing to deal with that reaction. But this was doing it for me, and I didn't have to put work into it. So I was like, wow, I just gave myself my own key. Anyway, 3 days after the bee sting, a strange thing happened. All of my lymph nodes swelled down. They were no longer swollen and painful. And I was like, hang on a second, my lymph nodes have swollen down, but what is this? And I felt the rice grains of calcium coming to the surface, and they don't hurt, but because it's calcium, they kind of irritate, and they can literally cut their way through the skin. So I was lucky and tweezers, and I managed to catch it as it was coming out and put it in a vial. So I'll be taking that to the doctors tomorrow so that they can confirm their tissue analysis or whatever of this particular reaction. So the body can do some really weird things, but it's a good sign. Michael Henderson says, are you a doctor? No, I have a background in osteology, paleopathology, anthropology, anatomy. I study those as a hobby. Always in studying disease mechanisms, because I was too chicken to be a doctor. I was like, no, if I go and get my blood draw, I pass out. If you talk about the blood circulation system in biology class, I pass out. I fall off the stool and black out. I'll be a doctor. I can't cope with seeing my own blood. It's supposed to be in my body, not out. And I've never gotten over that fear. And instead, I was always one of those people that were just fascinated by the resilience of the human body to cope with immense trauma and disease and pus leaking out of the body and things that the body doing to fight disease off. And I was so interested in that I decided to find out what are the disease mechanisms that kill us. So that's been my journey the last 10 years. And a lot of the art that I do has been focused on that. So now finally, when it's my turn to be diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, I'm like, I know this beast. I know the mechanism at which it's mummifying my organs and getting out of control and stealing my energy for itself. I know it. And so I came up with my own strategy to fight it. And that strategy has been validated because I knew I had cancer long before I'm in this diagnosis process. But with Western medicine, they want empirical data to support any testing. And because I am such a strong person and I know how to fight, I know how to leverage my immune system when I need it, my blood results are always going to be normal, exception to the strange blood count always being off. My blood count has been chronically off for years, and they told me, oh, that's okay, it's not kill you. But now they know that this is one of the tell signs of cancer, because having, for example, a high eosinophil count can represent allergies, but in my case they ruled out it's no longer a degranulation associated with mast cells, because I'm no longer suffering allergic reactions. I've gained control of my immune system to focus it on the disease rather than attacking me. And it took about 8 months to gain control of my immune system, where my oncologist was like, wow, congratulations, you have literally, like, people can rarely get MCAS under control. You've done it, you've gained control of it. And what happened was, I had control of the MCAS, but now the cancer could reveal itself. And that started to happen. And the investigation work has to try and find what type of cancer it is. And so I don't really have any fear. It's like, fear is the unknown. Like, you don't know what's happening to you. You don't know how long you're gonna live. You don't know what you're fighting. You don't know what's wrong with you. You don't know what all the symptoms mean. But I don't have that fear, because I know what I'm sensing inside, and I know my immune cycle, and I know that it comes in waves that last 3 to 5 days. And I focus on the efficiency of that wave to do the best it can with each wave. And I have shown progress over the last 2 months of realizing it's come to this. So I'm working hard at holding the clumping back. I describe it as clumping. It feels like clumping inside my body. which stops the mobility of my organs, which means that my organs start to suffocate and they start to succumb to inefficiency and blah blah blah. So I've been fighting the mummification process that comes with cancer, and I'm doing good. It's not comfortable, it can be quite painful sometimes, but I'm good with that. I feel like a warrior afterwards. It's no different from an athlete doing a training regimen and their muscles feel sore afterwards. For me, I have a different sense of what's going on, and I know what different types of aches and pains and stinginess and sensations. I can differentiate the different sensations and know what is the right immune activity and what is the wrong immune activity. So I'm very comforted by that, and that is why I've started this channel, New Direction, to try and reassure people if they're going through this kind of thing and they're relying on doctors being blind, leading the blind, to navigate them through a medical industry that's designed to sap them of their life's work and money and energy with no proven cure. And I'm like, I've got an innate skill to help reassure people that their bodies can fight back, and it's do or die, you know? Either the cancer's gonna die first or me. So I'm working on killing the cancer, and there are signs that I'm not just holding the battlefront here, but I'm actually corroding it back. There are signs. I think I explained in a previous video, I just put out there quickly, I had to put something out there because I did a live stream where I was working on myself in the jacuzzi, and I caught on camera the moment where one of my tumors detached itself from my psoas muscle, and oh god, that was a horrible sensation of sloughing and tearing. But when it did that, all of a sudden the tumor feels heavier, because instead of being anchored to a muscle where it was wrapped around my bowel and essentially extrinsically strangling my bowel from being able to poop, now it's kind of free hanging on my sinews and my omentum, and it feels kind of heavy now because it's not being supported by the muscle. So I'm like, oh, I actually made progress, and so it's good, and I'm actually having an easier time going to the bathroom now. So there has been some regression on the mummification around my bowels, uterus, and my upper intestine and stomach I'm still working on. It feels, when you've got the mummification happening around your upper intestine and stomach, that's probably the worst symptoms ever. That is the worst that I've had to deal with, because as the mummification moved up from the pelvic bowl into my more life-sustaining organs, those organs suffer terrible pain, and it gives you terrible nausea, and it puts you off eating, and you lose a ton of weight. I lost 30 pounds in 8 weeks. And that was kind of terrifying, because the doctors sit up and look at that. They pay attention to that. It's like, you can't eat, and it's like, I'm trying to, and I can't, because every time I eat something I get nauseous. That is a sign that the mummification has proceeded up the body into this area near the diaphragm. And that's the dangerous part, because then you start to lose weight dramatically, because you are unable to provide nutrition to your body, so your body starts to feed off itself. But you can stop that, as I did. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable, and you somehow have to find a way through going through the rough of it. which I did. I haven't checked my weight. I don't know if it's stabilized yet. I feel like I lost a couple more pounds. Feeling a bit rough today. We did some work on one of the tumors yesterday. I decided to attack it. And overnight it was sitting on the back of my leg, so it's with these nerve lines that run down from your it's the sciatic nerve. It runs down the back of your leg on the medial side of the knee and into your big toe. And my big toe was numb this morning. I woke up and I was like, dude, where's my toe? Oh, it's tingling. That's good. That's a good sign. It's tingling, so my body is trying to find it. So I wiggled it and I was like, okay. So what happened was, when I attacked this tumor on the back of my leg, my immune system saw it and it crowded it out and inflamed the whole area, which included the nerve sheaths of the sciatic nerve passing down next to this tumor, and irritated. So I lost contact momentarily with my big toe. But it was okay, because I was wiggling it and I'm like, no, I still got it. It just feels a bit weird. And as long as I eat right, I can harden those nerve sheaths and bring it back and just protect it. So nerves can re-heal. They can harden up again, as long as you get rid of the inflammation buildup and you replenish your diet with things that enable the regrowth and the hardening of the myelin sheaths, like mushrooms. So for nerve damage, I tend to do a lot of mushroom type superfoods. So I'll mix a minimum of 4 different types of mushrooms into a pad thai that I'm making. For but today, obviously, before I came out and did this, I was like, okay, the nerve sheath hardening happens overnight, but during the day I need to feed the blood and the fatty tissue, so I'm going to eat fish and eggs. It's a weird sensation when you are that in tune with what your body needs. You know how to just adjust your diet a little bit. I can't eat a large quantity of food. I have to have small quantities of food because my stomach is still struggling with the inflammation from the clumping that's mummified around it. But it's getting there, and I think one of the hardest things to do was to fight back the mummification that was happening near my stomach and the diaphragm, because that sensation produces these agonizing tearing sensations when your stomach suddenly moves. So that was pretty tough to work through. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say today. I wanted to get that on documentation. I just wanted to articulate it and get it out there, because when I do these live streams and I'm talking to myself, just to make a verbal note of what happened and a timestamp, so that I have a record that I can later go on and edit. And if you are interested in I don't know how to put this. On my community page on YouTube, I have put a link to my new Patreon, which is my old Patreon that I've repurposed. I'm gonna start backfilling it with a bunch of my research that I did over the last 10 years to illustrate my thinking about disease patterns in the body and how to interrupt them, disrupt them, and fight them back. So if you want to take a look, there's a poll. You don't have to subscribe, but the poll describes what stage are you at right now, because I'm curious to know the people that are following me or interested or just listening to me talk. I'm curious to know, are you the one that's suffering chronic illness, chronic fatigue, you're undiagnosed and you're being unheard? Are you the one that's fearful of the C word? Are you the one that's fearful of being diagnosed with cancer because everyone fears that? And you feel unheard and misdiagnosed? How can you be heard? Or are you the one that is diagnosed and now you feel like you're left to it, no one's helping you, and you're angry because you feel like, well, no one heard me, and if they'd listened to me they would have caught it earlier. And maybe this isn't you at all. Maybe you just are fearful for a loved one, someone you care for. So please head over to my Patreon and check out the poll and just put that segregation in there, what box you fit in, because it gives me an idea of how to figure out how to prioritize and categorize the new posting that I'm going to be doing from now on the actual method that I'm doing to fight back a very rare form of cancer that everyone, the oncology perspective is that I'm going to die in 9 months. I won't be here to see Christmas. And 2 months ago, I would have been crying over that. 2 months ago, I would have been just as scared as anyone. But now, having had a good 8 weeks of medical leave where I've just been fighting every day and realizing and understanding my metabolic cycle, this immune wave that starts in your gut and it travels to all the lymph nodes in your body and then fights back. And then it returns and cycles through the spleen. And then that spleen gives the instruction to set a new wave of killer cells out. So there's this constant cycle of ramping up and cleanup. And I think that's going to be different for everybody, but I've figured out my own pattern, and it gives me such great comfort and relief to know how to manage this battle with enough energy to maintain the war. Because there are lots of tumors, there's lots of battlefronts, and I have to stay going until it's all complete and it's all digested back. But obviously if it's metastasized and it's stage 4, there's a lot going on and you need to pick your battles. Are you dealing with pain that's stopping you from sleeping? Are you dealing with nausea that's stopping you from nutritionally providing the tools your immune system needs to fight? Which is the bigger problem here, because you have to strategize. You have to strategize your fight. So that's all I want to say for now, and I'm going to look at the transcript once it's processed and start chopping bits out and editing for my own educational videos that I want to share for others. But if you can subscribe to this channel just to see if I die, that would be great. Because I don't know about you, but when I realized this is it, this is what I'm fighting now, YouTube has this algorithm that all of a sudden it was recommending to me the patient story, which I follow a lot. I I hear everyone's stage 4 diagnosis, and I'm just so disappointed that no one is really diagnosed at stage 1, 2, or 3. Because Western medicine is not geared to understand tell signs and do early diagnosis. Insurance won't even pay for it. So everyone's being diagnosed at a very late stage when the cancer has spread, and everyone is fearful of going to the doctor and being told, I'm very sorry, you have cancer. And then there's a grieving process that they go through. They can get very angry because, you know, I told you so, no one listened to me. But you have to start validating yourself from within. You have to start listening to your body and realizing, I'm sorry. I know what that is. That's irritating. And I've noticed on the patient story, there's a lot of people that say, you have to listen to your body, you have to listen to your body. Well, listening to your body is great. It can give you a lot of insight and intuition. Believing in yourself is better, because the doctors don't listen to tell signs. They aren't trained to do that, and they don't have the empathy for it. And even if they did have the empathy for it, their hands are tied, because they want real empirical data. And when you give them a tell sign, they can't act on it. They need a tissue sample or something to show up in a scan, which often the insurance won't pay for. And if they do pay for, like as in my case, they paid for a scan, but they wouldn't pay for it within the hospital location. So I didn't have access to the specialists to double check the radiology report and give them direction. Instead I went to an outside location where there was probably some C-grade medical student who has no empathy, who looks at the x-ray or the scan and says, we're just looking for what's causing the hip pain, but they're not considering the patient as a whole. Like, there is a cause for hip pain outside of the hip. So they don't look at the pelvic organs, and they're supposed to, but they can just say, yeah, pelvic organs normal. But what about the stuff in between? There's stuff in between the pelvic organs. Didn't you see that? So that was a bogus report, and I saw it, I looked at it, and unfortunately the insurance system gets in the way too much, because when a radiologist says, oh, there's nothing remarkable here, nothing to be seen, move on, the insurance is like, okay, we believe you. And even if the doctors can see a shadow, they're not allowed to say it. They are ethically not allowed to say it could be cancer, because they don't want to cause more mental harm to a patient, more trauma, stress, or whatever, so they're not allowed to say it. And secondly, asking a doctor or a specialist to say, can I have a second reading on that MRI, is really hard. The insurance people won't pay for it. Their MO is to delay and just delay and put off until there are real signs, by which time I'm not saying it's late, but it's critical. You know, you're at a part in the fight which is very, very hard. And but now I have a new purpose. Now I have a new purpose, that while I'm waiting for them to complete investigations and do the molecular molecular analysis, the sort of genetic mutation analysis, that's unimportant, because that for them is a recipe of what type of chemo we're going to put you on. It's up to me if I do chemo, and I could at this point say, you know what, I've managed to do this much work on my own and I reject your poison. Because at the end of the day, How much am I going to have to pay for that? How much are the pharmaceutical companies going to make out of that? And yet I've been unheard all this time. So the reality is, from an oncology perspective, the pressure that I will face to do chemo is, it's palliative and it may extend my life by 2 months. That's the reality of being diagnosed with sarcoma, is that once they actually are able to say, this is sarcoma and it's these mutations, and this is the chemo we can match up to it, the chemo is considered a palliative measure to maintain or suppress the growth to extend your life by maybe 2 months. What people don't realize is chemo targets dysregulated growth patterns, which happen in cancer, but there are other cells in your body that grow very fast, like your hair. And so when you do chemo, that's why you lose your hair, because it's targeting fast growth. So slow growing cells supposedly don't get targeted, but unfortunately the mechanisms to support the whole system are impeded with a kind of, I'm going to call poison, because it's making you less efficient, and that lack of efficiency is also going to suppress your immune system to some point. So I'm thinking, okay, so if I do get the diagnosis come through, which I'm expecting because they've ruled a bunch of things out, and there's only one other cause for the mummification, which is a form of cancer, but it's also a soft tissue or bone form of cancer. I've watched a ton of these videos where YouTube algorithm is recommending me, oh, this is my last video, this is my last transmission, and then they die after doing these posts. I'm used to seeing that now because it comes up in my feed a lot, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be one of those people. So subscribe and see, right? Because that's supposed to be what happens to me next, right? I'm not supposed to be here by Christmas, and I'm gonna show people that there is a different way to fight this, and I don't have any fear. I'm really calm. I'm actually the happiest I've been in my life. I'm really grateful for everything. I love how intuition has served me well, because I've tuned into my body. I realized that I never needed to seek for validation from doctors or anyone. I validated myself. So if I can share that with people to ease their fear and discomfort a bit more, at least if I go, I leave the world a better place. Okay, bye.